Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. Ahead of the Hungarian Grand Prix, Mercedes have revealed many major upgrades coming to their car over the coming weeks, which may well unlock significant lap time, but they have downplayed any optimism regarding this weekend's race, saying their qualifying pace will not give them the greatest chance at the Hungaroring. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to dive into today. Thought this is rather interesting as well, the fact that Mercedes are only down 36 points this season compared to where they were last year. Didn't have the greatest start to last season, but interesting to look at these numbers regardless. Generally, Mercedes-powered cars losing out, but the Ferrari cars with engine penalties coming might well suffer as time progresses. Some more positive news though, or negative depending on the way you look at it, is that the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa will, it seems, stay for another year. The rumour had it that we were going to be leaving Spa after this season, and well, the Kyalami Grand Prix in South Africa was going to be coming in to replace it. Now, the French Grand Prix is going to be gone. They want to go back to China. Not sure if that's going to be possible. Of course, the Las Vegas Grand Prix is coming in as well next season, so France is probably gone for quite some time. The Belgian Grand Prix may well remain for one extra season. They really have to figure out like logistical issues and how to actually get people to the track, as it's in the middle of nowhere. It's a bit of a disaster to actually get people there. F1 aren't happy with that. They're going to bin it off effectively, but it might well stay for one more season, which is positive. Maybe they have one more year to figure out how they can actually keep it on the circuit, because we don't want to lose Spa, but it might still be happening, and Kyalami might have to wait one more year for the track to be ready in 2024. This also in terms of the driver lineup for next season. Williams boss Capito has said that their driver Logan Sargent, who has been making waves lately in Formula 2, it'd be a great headache if Sargent can put himself potentially in the title fight, because they of course have got to figure out what their driver pairing is going to be next year. Latifi is almost certainly going to be gone. Albon is almost certainly going to stay based on our current information. They need therefore a second driver. There was talk about Nick de Vries. There's been talk also about Oscar Piastri, a loan arrangement from Alpine, and now they're thinking about Logan Sargent, right, coming in from their Formula 2 side. So Capito did say he's impressed with Sargent, but it's too soon for Williams to consider him for 2023. We are impressed. It's his first season in F2. He's really impressed us. He will be in an F1 car in the future. I am absolutely convinced. So quite the statements here. Maybe just gassing up Sargent in a way so that they can get this Piastri deal over the line, or whatever exactly their plan is, or whoever's going to be in that car next year. But yeah, just another name to, I suppose, throw in the ring of a possible F1 driver in the future. Wanted to mention real quick about Haas as well, if you guys missed this yesterday, that Haas are also bringing significant upgrades to the Hungaroring. Apparently, their biggest upgrade package of the year. Very extensive upgrade. It has been described as apparently taking great inspiration from Ferrari's F175. So far this season, we've seen Williams and Aston Martin take great inspiration from the Red Bull. Now it seems to only be 2-1 to the Red Bull, with Haas looking at Ferrari and maybe copying a few things. We'll see how similar their car looks. Only Magnussen is going to have it this weekend. He apparently is somewhat concerned that if it doesn't work, that's their season done for, but if it does give them the upgraded lap time that they are looking for, then Haas could be a real contender in the midfield, as they are some weekends, and some weekends they seem to be nowhere near the pace. Let's talk about the front runners then. Firstly, we've heard this news about Porsche and the fact that they're going to, partner with Red Bull Racing to do engines in 2026. Apparently they've now bought 50%. That's only coming out just a couple of hours ago, so just thought I'd put it out there, and I'm sure there might be more to discuss on this tomorrow and as time progresses. But Red Bull have been somewhat concerned about Ferrari's pace around the Hungaroring. Certainly a circuit with very few long straights, even the main straight is not particularly long at all. This should give a great advantage to Ferrari with their great downforce and their acceleration out of corners. It should be a circuit rather well suited to Ferrari and not particularly to the Red Bull. Can Mercedes get into the fight though? That of course has been one of the key question marks. So James Voles from Mercedes was talking about a lot of the kind of questions that as Mercedes do after every Grand Prix weekend, and many of the questions he was answering were around the current state of the car, upgrades that are coming, saying that they understand the car more and more, they have plenty of things in the works, the car is improving every single week, and they've got many upgrades to come. Apparently the one they brought here to France was very minor really, maybe a more major one here to Hungary is kind of what is implied, and certainly after that. So it seems like they understand what direction they want to take the car in. George Russell has said that a couple of days ago as well, that they understand now what they've got to do to get quicker, lose weight here, gain lap time by doing this, that and the other, because they've fixed their main issue, which is the bouncing along the straights. Now they've fixed that, they can focus on the actual ways to unlock lap time, kind of behind the development curve that Red Bull and Ferrari have been under, because Mercedes had to deal with this major issue at the start of the season, and now they can theoretically catch up a little bit more. The car is still rather unpredictable in how it's going to perform weekend to weekend, but in race pace it's pretty much been there or thereabouts. So Vols is revealing here that yes, they've got plenty in the works and they believe there will be a lot of lap time to unlock. It'll be a slow process to get back to the front, but they do believe they are slowly getting back on level terms with the front runners, but saying that due to their lacking qualifying pace, the Hungaroring might be one step too far so far this season for Mercedes.
Where we are at the moment is clearly we're improving the car race on race, and our race pace is getting there, but qualifying isn't at the moment. We are struggling really to get into the mix with them, and there's going to be certain tracks like Paul Ricard, Silverstone, where we're able to use that race pace to advantage. Budapest, less so. It's very difficult at Budapest if you start behind to move back forward through the field again. There are opportunities, but just more difficult. In terms of the upgrades themselves, yes, they're incremental steps, they're small steps that we're adding to the car, but the important point is that we have plans to introduce far, far more across the races that follow. We're not going to be able to, in one go, just catch up and be with Ferrari and Red Bull. But hopefully, as you've seen across the season so far, we are incrementally closing that gap down and we have more to come. But we're not where we need to be yet to be winning. That's the short answer to it. And especially, for example, on qualifying pace. And Hungary will expose that weakness somewhat. We're realistic. We have made steps forward, and I can see progress, and we can see progress for how we are going to move forward again across the next few races. But in Budapest, we have to be realistic. Where we are with this car is a strong race car, but we may not be able to use all of it in the conditions that are presented to us. And we need to do a better job than we have been doing to make sure we're qualifying where the car should be towards the front.
So if you guys haven't seen these numbers, these were the race pace numbers around the French Grand Prix. Hamilton about 4 tenths off the pace of Verstappen. Russell was about 5 tenths off the pace, but a relatively long track, so on a shorter circuit, that might be the 3 or so tenths that we've seen for quite some time. And in general, the Mercedes didn't really seem so comfortable around Paul Ricard as it has done for, let's say, around Austrian qualifying. It looked rather good, but in general, their quali pace has been nowhere near what they're going to need to have, especially around a circuit like Paul Ricard, because that's the thing. This is what the circuit looks like if you guys are unfamiliar. There's a relatively short start-finish straight, like a not particularly long DRS zone here, to be honest, compared to a lot of, like, if you compare this to Spain, I don't know, I mean, this is probably, what, 60% of the Spain start-finish straight. That's a long one. This is not particularly. So they've got 2 DRS straights, one down the main straight, you come out of turn 1, and then there's another DRS zone down into turn 2. This really is potentially the overtaking opportunity. Once you get past turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, there's really not much you can do for the rest of the lap. You just have to kind of follow the cars around through the rest of the weaves and try and get close enough through the final hairpin to actually put yourself in a position to make a pass down the straight. We've seen in previous years, like Hamilton getting held up by Alonso an awful lot around here. And, you know, of course, well, last year, for example, that was very much the case with Ocon going on to take the victory. So being a circuit that's rather hard to pass around, yes, Lewis Hamilton has won here more times than any other driver. I think he has 8 victories around the Hungaroring, the king of the ring, some people say. Whatever, it's tough for Hamilton to win a race if he's not out in front around a circuit like this because, well, it's difficult to pass, especially with the straight line speed deficit the Mercedes have. Like, they're not really going to be able to, if let's say the Ferraris are the quickest car, what they've got to hope for really, if Mercedes want to win this race, is for the Ferraris to have another Ferrari classic. Either they bin it out, the engines blow up or something like that, or they just make another strategic disaster class. They've probably got to hope for that because the Ferrari should be the quickest car around here based on the way, you know, this circuit is designed. And, well, with the Ferrari upgrades, it seems like they are probably the strongest car right now, apart from straight line speed, where it's not particularly useful around the Hungaroring. So theoretically, Ferrari should be the strongest. Maybe Mercedes with further upgrades can match the pace of the Red Bull. That seems optimistic, but it might be possible. But even if that is the case, the Red Bull seems to be much better in qualifying. So let's say both Mercedes are starting behind both Red Bulls, even if they have the same race pace, which might be optimistic anyway, can they actually make a pass around here? Like, does that seem particularly likely? Maybe on Perez, if he performed the same as he did this past weekend. Probably not on Verstappen, right? So still, Mercedes are thinking, well, you know, look, the podiums we've got recently have been largely due to race pace and other teams having DNFs and difficult results in general. Around the Hungaroring, they're probably going to need more of the same luck to actually achieve a similar result. And saying that, yes, qualifying performance is a key factor that they're going to need to focus on, because if their qualifying is so far off the pace as it has been recently, I overlooked back to the Spanish Grand Prix. This is the first Grand Prix this year where they looked somewhat competitive. Hamilton was pretty much the fastest man on track for a time during this weekend. weekend when he had that kind of recovery stint. But still, in terms of qualifying that weekend, despite being within about 0.2 of a second, 2 or 3 tenths in terms of race pace, pretty much there or thereabouts, they were still at 6-7 tenths off in qualifying. And we saw most recently in Paul Ricard, Hamilton put together a great lap, and he was 0.9 of a second off the time that Leclerc did to take pole, yes, with a toe, but in the race they were only, 3-4 tenths off, right? So they seemed to lose half a second really in qualifying pace compared to regular pace, and even let's say the Mercedes are stuck behind a McLaren and Alpine or something after a difficult qualifying at Hungary, then, they're going to have a really hard time making the podium. So they feel optimistic about their future. They're saying that Hungary might not be the best suited for them. Now, look, if rain happens on Saturday, as it might, then things get rather spicy, because yes, qualifying has been pretty bad for Mercedes, but when it rains, things obviously get thrown up in the air with drying conditions and different tyres being good at certain times. Means that crazy things can happen, like Latifi getting it into Q3 back at Silverstone, for example. So yeah, the rumour currently has it, or at least the weather currently indicates that it may well be raining on Saturday, probably a 60-70% chance as it stands at the moment. If it is the case, then it creates, well, a rather exciting environment potentially for Saturday. We'll see, of course. It's only a couple of days away, and last year, the rain in Hungary certainly caused some rather exciting moments, I suppose, with Bottas going bowling into turn 1. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.